Welcome to the Pet Loss Companion. I'm Ken Dolan-Del Vecchio, and I'm here with my friend and colleague and co-author, Nancy Saxton Lopez. Together, we wrote the book, The Pet Loss Companion, Healing Advice from Family Therapists Who Lead Pet Loss Groups. And it is based on the work that we did for many years. Nancy initiated a pet loss support group decades ago in New Jersey, and I joined her a decade or more after she started. And we had people come to the meeting who had just lost a pet, or maybe it was an anniversary, or in one way or another, they needed support. And as you may know, grief is often best healed in the company of supportive other people who are going through something similar. It can be a really, really good resource. We took the information that we got and the stories that we got in that support group over many years, and in a way that was not able to be identified with any particular individual, we put together the book as a way to expand the reach of the kind of support that people can find in a face-to-face support group for loss. And this broadcast is our effort to extend that reach further. So it's very nice to be with you. And if you are listening to us live, please feel free to send a comment in or ask a question or share your own story. And also do the same if you're watching one of the broadcast videos or listening to a podcast. We're very interested in hearing from you and responding to your thoughts and questions. We want this program to be as helpful as it can be. And so, Nancy, why don't you get us started?
Yeah. So tonight, what we're going to talk about is something that a lot of people brought up in the group, and that was support during their grieving. Meaning that a lot of people would not necessarily say things that were helpful. They meant well, but they weren't helpful. And how do you respond to that? Do you respond to that? How do you get support? And I want to preface all of this by the fact that we just don't really grieve well anyway. I mean, nobody really wants to feel these feelings. And when someone is in pain, it's really hard for others to be in that pain. And so a lot of times they may say things that they think are helpful, but they're not. Right, Ken?
Yes, and I've said this before, but I always return to it. When we think about how our society, people in our society tend to deal with loss and grief, we're at a loss. Like we don't know what to do with it. We're freaked out by it.
Yeah.
And there's research from a while back that showed that even when a person has had a major loss, like the loss of a beloved pet or the ending of a love relationship or some other major loss, the people around them will generally feel like they should be over it, completely over it in 3 weeks. And that's just not the reality for many people. Grief takes whatever time it takes.
Yes.
And because we're a society that is so fixated on positivity. Barbara Ehrenreich wrote a book called Bright-Sided, which is the downside of this kind of ferocious need on many people's part and in the popular culture for us to always be happy, up, everything's going great, when that's not life.
No.
That's really not the way it is. That's not reality. And so we are not very skilled at dealing with a person who we care about who's in pain. We're just not very skilled at it. I mean, some of us are, and that's a great thing, but many are just really unnerved. And so they say all kinds of things that are well-intended, but tend to make the person on the receiving end feel something negative, feel dismissed, feel misunderstood, feel like they're being told they should get over it in one way or another. So that's really what we want to talk about in part today.
Yeah, what I worked on for this episode was, you're sitting there and you're in a lot of pain, and you may be at work and somebody walks over and says, well, what's the matter? What's going on for you? And, the person, you as the griever say, I'm just really sad. My cat died, Silky died, a few weeks ago, and I'm really having a hard time. And the person looks and says, well, can't you just get another cat? Now, and that's not an untypical response, by the way.
It happens a lot. It happens a lot. Like, problem solved. Just get another one.
I mean, just, so I'm going to respond to that. Now, there's a couple things here. First of all, you probably want to reach out and choke them, but, they are a colleague, right? And so it's a learning moment. However, I must have the caveat to say it's not an easy thing when you're so raw in emotions to be able to sometimes do what we're going to kind of talk about, which means, first of all, the tone of your voice. I mean, what you want to do is what are you talking about, and be angry, but people will hear you better, and it will be a learning moment for them if you are quiet and calm. Now, that said, that's not necessarily the easiest thing to say. But if you're angry, it cuts off the dialogue. And we want your colleague to say, wait a minute, what you've said is not right. So you want to be honest and direct, right? So if they say, get another one, you can say something like, I can't replace Silky. She was one of a kind. And getting another pet could be in the future, but that doesn't take away the fact that Silky has died, and every relationship is unique and special. Now, that's one way to talk to this person. I understand that when you're in that place, that may not be the easiest thing to say, or you may just say, I really can't talk about this right now. I know that you may be trying to help me, but I can't really talk about this. Or, there are other things that we will go through. Do you have any thoughts about that?
It's so difficult. The scenario at work, I think, is particularly difficult because depending on the sensibilities of the person who you're explaining to about the importance of this loss, they may or may not get it, and they may actually be offended. So if you were to say what you said, many people hopefully would respond to that very positively, because you laid out very clearly what the meaning of the loss is. However, some people are so into their own perspective that they might even feel like you're lecturing them or like you're trying to shut them down or something. So I think it's just really tricky, and you have to do what feels right at the moment. I mean, I think at work, I'm always sensitive about this question at work, because I feel like if you're in an extremely vulnerable place emotionally at work, you have to know that anybody who you're sharing that with cares about you in a human kind of way and is respectful toward you, because some workplaces you can't count on that. And you might even be seen as weak, or that there's something wrong with you because you're so upset about the loss of your pet. So you just have to be mindful of that, like where you share it. I think that there's so many different ways, and you can even say something like, this pet, this animal was a family member. They were so close to my heart. And it's like when I hear you say that, maybe you can just get another one, I think, well, if my best friend died, would it make sense to say to me, you can just get another one? because that's kind of who this pet was to me. And it's so tricky because you're in a vulnerable state of mind. Who knows how clearly you're going to be able to express
Exactly.
what you're thinking
hard.
and feeling. And
So-
sometimes you might just say that I just don't feel like I can talk about this right now.
Exactly. Or you may not even say, listen, I'm having a bad time and I don't want to talk about it. Not even sharing that, right? You could do that.
Yeah.
In fact, I had a client actually devastated about her dog, the loss of her dog. And she took a medical leave for a few weeks to collect herself. She just said, I'm not going back to work. She had an environment that was very structured and tough. I don't know how to go into it so much more, but she felt that she really needed to have some time off to collect herself.
Yeah.
And that's what she did.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So another question that comes up a lot is, well, you don't have to pay your vet bills anymore.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. This is a great relief, isn't it? Because all of that back and forth to the vet is over with. Now you can go out and you can go out on a Friday night and not have to be worried about it. You don't have to come home and clean up after all the messes they've made because they are incontinent now. And that happens a lot. And it's kind of like this suggestion that you should actually feel good about.
Yeah, you should be relieved. I mean, in some cases there is relief. However, it's still pain. There is still loss, right?
Yeah.
So, but if somebody's saying, "Wow, you talked about how you had to give shots, you all the time, and you had to do it, infusions, and you were at the vet. Wow, you don't have to worry about that anymore."
Yeah, and the thing that people, again, people say that kind of thing. They're trying to give you an invitation to feel better.
Exactly.
They're trying to help. They're trying to throw you a line to say, hey, look on the bright side, But the thing is that really what they're trying to do, another way to look at it is they're trying to avoid their own discomfort at being close to your emotional pain. Yeah. And that's the thing that lands on the person who's grieving. It's like, you're dismissing me. That's what it will feel like. Invariably, that's what it'll feel like. Because
oh my God, yes.
If you can't empathize, and empathizing really means just being present, compassionate, maybe not saying much of anything. Just, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for your loss, because you're not going to make them feel better aside from feeling like you care. And that helps a bit in the moment. It's a good thing to feel like there's somebody there who cares about how you're feeling, who recognizes how you're feeling, and isn't trying to change it in any way.
That's the thing. I mean, you can't make it better.
You're right.
You can't make the person feel better. So what you could say, listen, you are trying to make me feel better, but I'm not thinking of the vet bills now, or the time and energy it took to take care of him. I loved him and I miss him, and I have no regrets spending the money or taking care of him at all.
Yeah. I mean, that's great. It's a complicated situation, and there are often, as you mentioned, mixed in feelings of relief.
Yes.
There often are those feelings, but you can't assume that those are the feelings that this person wants you to empathize with. Probably not. Almost certainly not, because they're mostly in their pain. They're mostly in their sadness. And that's validating that is what is going to make them feel like you are actually with them. You're actually present there. You care about how they feel. You are willing to sit with them and
in the pain with them.
In the pain, and not try to erase it or change it or give them a solution or give them a rope to pull them out of their sadness. You can't do that. And that's a very hard thing for many people to do. And one of the reasons is going back to this idea that we're a culture for the most part that flees from negative feelings. We're just not okay. We're like almost desperate to feel bright, to feel positive.
We're supposed to feel good. We're supposed to feel happy.
And the paradox is that the only way for most people to get to a place where they feel some peace and some solace is to go through the really extreme, sad, confused, just really deep pain of their grief.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because we're taught to feel this way, that we have to be always positive. But the problem is that all of that negativity, all of that emotions that are squashed and repressed and are ruminating in there can really cause a lot of psychosomatic illness, can cause a lot of substance abuse and dependence.
Yep.
Can cause, really serious physical situations.
Sure.
So it's really important, even though it's so hard, to feel that pain. But again, yes, we need the people around that support it. And if some people are not going to support it, they don't know how to do it. So we're talking, right? They don't know how to help. So some people don't even say anything. So you have a best friend that may not say anything to you, and you're like, how is that? How can she be a best friend?
Yep.
Well,
there is that tendency in some people to feel like, I don't want to mention it because I don't want them to have to feel bad.
Yes. And then that's right.
Sometimes you have to just tell somebody, I lost my animal companion, right? I lost my dog. And just so that you bridge between the past when you had your pet and they knew about it to now where they know that your pet has died. And we need to be in a shared story with people who are really close to us. Mm-hmm. And so just making sure that they acknowledge that, or they say, yeah, I know. And then if you sense their discomfort, you can even say, and you don't have to say anything about it. I just wanted to make sure that you knew.
That you knew, right.
Yeah.
Another thing that comes up similar to the vet bills is, well, now you can go on vacation. So you can come and visit me.
I know.
And that's
it really does. I mean, it's kind of surprising the things that people will say to people who are in dire, deep pain. And for the most part, they are totally well intended.
I know.
They're like, what can I say? Because the thinking might be, what can I say to cheer them up? Like, what can I say? Oh, I know. I'll think about the things that are good about this.
Right.
And the truth of the matter is that with every major change, with every major loss, there are some gains. Yes. There are, and they can be. The gain can be as deep and as simple as you understand the preciousness of life and our time here. Like, that's a really profound gift that we get when we lose someone special. So and in fact, it may be that you don't have the financial responsibility of all of the payments that you had, but those are nothing compared to the depth of your sadness. And that's something that many people simply don't understand. I think we don't understand that largely because we've grown so far removed from the basics of life and death. I think that so many people, in fact, we just were in an exchange with a person who asked a question, has watched some of the broadcasts, and they were trying to figure out whether or not they should tell their kids, who were grammar school age kids, that a friend's pet is going to be euthanized. And one of the parents said, I don't want them to have to deal with that. I don't want them to feel that sadness, because the other parent was saying, we should tell them and let them say goodbye. Mm-hmm. And the advice that I gave was, you gotta honor each other's wishes, so that you don't want to do something that the other person is going to totally disagree with. Like, you wouldn't want to take the kids to visit with this pet and say goodbye if your spouse thinks that's a terrible idea. But you do want to talk it through with your spouse and say something to the order of, well, our kids are going to have to face a lot of loss in their lives. And knowing that this friend's pet is dying, they may want to have the opportunity to say goodbye. And it might be good to bring them into a conversation about it, at least, because everything that happens in our life is a learning experience. And we don't want to go through life feeling like I can't deal with loss, because we're going to have a lot of loss. We all do. We have lots of losses, large losses and small losses.
So, however, there will be some people that you are not, they continue not to be supportive. So you can get a little more direct and say, wow, I know you're trying to be helpful, but I'm really, really grieving right now. And what you're saying is it's not helping me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, you may have to be that strong. It's hard for you to feel what I'm feeling. You just need to allow me to be me and grieve.
Yeah. And they even just say, if you just sit here quietly with me, that would be really helpful.
Exactly. You could give them an option.
You can give them an option. And again, it depends on the relationship, because some people you're just not going to tell.
No, some people,
like some people at work, like you're not going to tell them anything, or people who you're just not that close to. Like, at some point they may ask how your pet's doing in a year from now. And I mean, it depends on how you know them, how closely you are affiliated with them. Right.
Right.
Now, one of the things we wanted to talk about is the value in a group, right?
Yes.
That it can be really a great support, because when you are in a meeting, and it may or may not be face to face at this point, it depends on where you're living and what the rules are, but maybe online, maybe even just a chat exchange. There's something really powerful about being connected to people who are also going through a similar loss.
Mm-hmm.
And
you find that they're very supportive, and that's the purpose of the group, that they can all bond together and they will help each other throughout the weeks. So even, after the group, they can share their numbers if they want. They can talk to each other throughout the week, or how many weeks between groups. And, some of them become very good friends, actually, and really support each other for a long time.
And the validation that goes on in those kinds of meetings is so important, because we've talked about how people will say, I should have seen that something bad was beginning to happen. Mm-hmm. I should have caught it earlier, or we should have euthanized her 2 weeks before because she went through such pain in the last couple of weeks. And somebody else in that meeting will say, look, we are always feeling guilty about things that
everyone feels guilty.
Didn't have the capacity to do it differently. And, they'll say things like, of course, hindsight looks different. And you'd have to be some kind of superhuman to have seen things that probably nobody in this room would have noticed. And that kind of support from somebody who has had a similar experience, not exactly the same experience, but it's just so valuable and so affirming, right? It's just so positive.
And it's nice because I would say at least 98% of the time, even with a situation with a young man, I think, who came in and accidentally gave his dog a piece of pizza, and the dog choked in front of him and died. Oh, wow. And so, but the room, the people there lifted him. I mean, they just were there for him and said, it wasn't your fault. And, I know this is hard. And it was so helpful for him. And sometimes, Ken, you could feel the relief that
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
they're being understood,
Yeah.
that they are getting support and they're being understood.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's palpable. You could just,
Yeah. And to have somebody say, I feel responsible too for my pet's death. I did this, that, or the other thing. And there are so many things that happen in life that if we'd done something different, it's possible the outcome would have been better. But that's the way life is. We have no way of gauging in the moment many possible outcomes. But there is something uniquely affirming and validating about being in a room or in a chat where people are saying, that's the way I feel.
That's right.
Here's what happened in my situation. Here's what I did. I can't get over it. I hope you can. I'm trying to.
Because you have people at different stages of grief too, right?
Yeah.
Some people are coming back after a period of time, and some people are just brand new. And then the brand new people speak, and then everyone, okay, and they can really commiserate and acknowledge all those feelings. They said that's what happened. And then a lot of times for people that have been there, that have been for a while, they'll say it does get better.
Yeah.
Which also gives that new person grieving hope that it will change.
Yeah, the idea that something similar happened to this person, and I see that they understand, and they also are in general feeling less burdened, not over it, not like everything's fine with them, and probably they never will be exactly the same again, because every major loss changes us. We live forward with it.
Inevitably
we carry it within us, but we don't come back to where we were. We come back to a place that's more complicated and more wise in many ways, is the way I tend to think about it. And
yes, you learn
you will witness this in the experiences that other people are telling you and showing you when you're in that kind of a meeting. And then there's a number of books. There's of course our book. There are others as well, and it may be helpful to get a few of them and take a look, because they'll come at the supportive process from slightly different places, I'm sure, with a different voice. So it's always a good idea, if you get solace from reading, to read a few of these kinds of
some are very religiously based, which is fine.
If that's where you're coming, if that helps you, then that's a really important thing for you. Yeah.
So, and there are chat rooms. I mean, for people, I'm looking at people that are in rural areas or don't have a lot of resources. You certainly can go online. I think that there's I think the company's Pet Vine, but I'm not sure. And I think they do have an online support group.
Now, what is that?
Pet Vine. I think it's PETVINE, but don't hold me to that, though. I got to look it back up. I saw it the other day, but I do think they have an online companion animal support group.
And if you Google animal support, I think you'll probably find some interactive resources.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So we're almost at the end of our time. I want to ask you, how are you doing with your recent loss?
I'm okay. I've done a lot with, of course, last episode we were all talking about our memorials, and that's really helped me a lot. I mean, I miss, and one loss brought back all of them, right? So Molly died, and then I went backwards all the way to Tashi. So, or all the animals I lost when I was a kid. We are so attached to our these are our family members. These are our kids. But yes, thank you. I'm doing okay. And
that's
I'm waiting
good.
for my rocks to come in my memorial garden. I'm waiting for my rocks. They're on their way. So
I have to tell you, I mean, it's great. It's great to hear that, and it's just a process, and it's
and also I think as therapists too, where it's, you know, we innately feel this stuff tremendously because we're empaths, right? But I also work with so many people that are going through that.
yeah.
So and in some ways, you know, I can help them because I know what I'm going through also.
Oh, sure. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have the experience. One of my dogs turned 16 on the 6th. Abigail turned 16, and on the 20th, Isabel turned 16. And Isabel, as you know, has this congestive heart
I
failure.
know.
Today I was giving her a bath, and I'm like, she's so, you know, she's so elderly now.
Yeah, I know.
and,
I know.
and it's just such a precious time because
I
I'm
know.
thinking, because we didn't think she'd make it to 16.
I
Like that
know.
was the thing. Is she going to make it this next year? And we're lucky enough, and she seems robust enough to keep going for hopefully maybe even another year. We'll see. But it's something to just encounter that date, the anniversary
No,
coming up.
it's amazing, right?
And as you said, it brings back all of the relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And now mostly in a really loving pot, like there's not, because the last loss was a while ago, it's not so painful. It's just a tinge of
Right, of course.
recollection and remembrance and
All,
longing, you know?
they're all right here.
Yeah. Yes, they are. They're in our
All
hearts.
sitting in there, right? And you have,
Yeah.
and listen, you know, I watch Tic Tac once in a while, which, you know, is addicting, so don't do a lot of it. But they do have some Tic Tacs around. This is what it's going to be like when I get to the Rainbow Bridge and the dog is running towards them. You know? Or this is my old dog, and this is what, you know, he's not seeing very well, and he's not walking very well, and so what do we do with our old dog? We love them, you know.
Right.
So there's
right. That's right. Well, Nancy, it's always great to talk with you. It's been a great conversation, and I'll look forward to talking with you again next week.
Next week.
Take care.